The rooster hadn't crowed yet when Amara tied her faded wrapper around her waist and stepped out into the cold dawn. The air was heavy with mist, the sky a dull grey that promised another scorching day once the sun broke free. Her bare feet crunched softly along the familiar dirt path. A clay waterpot balanced with practiced ease atop her head. The river was still, and the forest around it seemed to hold its breath. This was Amara's favorite time of day, not because it was peaceful, but because it was empty. No villagers, no eyes watching. Just her pot, and the silence of the world waking up. She crouched at the river's edge and dipped the pot in slowly. The water gurgled in as cool as ice. She smiled faintly, straightened up, and placed the full pot on her head. Then she turned, intending to take the usual trail home, until a noise snapped her attention. Laughter, rough, careless male laughter. She paused, listening. It came from deeper in the bush, near the old mango grove. Her stomach tensed. She knew that kind of laugh, men talking like the world belonged to them. Hunters. She took a hesitant step forward, ducking slightly beneath the low branches of a pawpaw tree. Their voices drifted toward her more clearly now. Double money, eh? One of them chuckled. A pregnant mermaid. We're rich, I tell you. Amara froze. Another man spat. Big man in the city said pregnant ones have twice the power. He'll pay anything. She could feel the clay pot growing heavier on her head. A mermaid. Pregnant. Lucky we got her when she came for water at midnight, said a third voice. Colder, sharper. Foolish creature. Didn't think we'd be waiting. Her breath caught in her throat. She turned quickly and started walking away, fast. Her steps crushed the dry leaves beneath her feet, and her heart pounded even louder. A pregnant mermaid. This had to be a dream, or a warning from the gods. People whispered about water spirits, but no one believed they were real. Not anymore. She reached the fork in the path. One way led back to the main road, the other cut through the backwoods. Without thinking, she chose the woods. It was riskier, yes, but it meant avoiding those men. As she slipped through the underbrush, a faint sound made her stop again. Crying. Soft, painful, human. She lowered her pot gently onto the earth, every instinct in her body screaming for her to leave. But something about the sound rooted her in place. She turned toward it, stepping quietly, slowly. Behind a thick bamboo grove, she saw her, tied to a tree with thick rope, barely able to lift her head. Was a woman, or something like one. Long wet hair clung to her face. Her skin shimmered faintly. Even in the pale light, her arms were bruised, her shoulders trembling. But it was her eyes that stopped Amara's breath. They were glassy, filled with tears and an ancient sadness Amara had never seen before. And then she looked down. Where legs should have been, there was a tail, silver-scaled, tied at the base like it was a sack of yams. The creature's swollen belly rose and fell as she breathed, her voice barely a whisper. Please, help me. Amara stumbled back, clutching her chest. Her lips parted but no words came out. I'm Nene, the woman rasped. Please, they'll come back, they'll kill me. And my baby. Amara blinkered, struggling to breathe. All the stories, the warnings, mermaids, luring men to drown, stealing children, cursing those who crossed them. All those tales came flooding into her mind. She should run, tell the elders, call for help, anything but this. But the creature, Nene, wasn't dangerous. She looked like a woman left to die, and the rope, it had bitten into her wrists. Her skin was bleeding. Why are you here? Amara whispered, unable to look away. I came to the river to give birth, Nene said, wincing. I didn't know humans were waiting. They trapped me before I could return to the water. A branch snapped in the distance. Voices, laughter, getting closer. Panic surged through Amara's veins. Her body moved before her mind could protest. She dropped to her knees, fingers fumbling with the knot at Nene's wrists. The rope was thick and rough, tied cruelly. Her hands trembled as she tugged, yanked, pulled, but the knot refused to budge. Please, hurry, Nene begged, her voice growing weaker. The men were closer now. One of them called out, let's get her before the villagers wake up. They were near, too near. Amara's body trembled as sweat streamed down her back. Her clay pot sat exposed, just beyond the grove. If they saw it, they'd know someone was here. And then a sudden shout. And one of the men screamed, look, there, thudding footsteps, crashing leaves. Amara's head shot up. They were running in the opposite direction. A miracle. She didn't waste a second. She yanked at the knot again, gritting her teeth. It finally gave way with a snap. Nini cried out softly as the rope fell. "Can you move?" Amara asked breathlessly. The mermaid nodded, trying to rise but collapsing again. "I can't leave you here," Amara muttered. She bent down, wrapped Nene's arm around her neck, and hoisted her up. The mermaid was heavier than expected. Her tail alone felt like a full sack of cassava. But Amara gritted her teeth and moved, one step at a time, through the forest. Each step was agony. Dry leaves crunched. Thorns scratched her ankles. Nini whimpered softly with each jolt. Almost there, Amara gasped. They paused beneath a tree for a few breaths, then moved again and again. The sky was starting to glow with the first signs of sunrise by the time Amara reached the edge of her compound. Her hut stood alone, modest, with a leaking roof and walls of dried mud. Inside, her 2 children slept on a woven mat. She peeked in, they hadn't stirred. Quietly, she slipped inside, dragging Nene in behind her. "Lie down," she whispered, easing Nene onto the mat. The mermaid's tail curled weakly behind her. Her skin was slick with sweat, her breaths shallow. Amara stood there, staring. What had she done? Outside, the village was waking. Smoke from cooking fires curled into the sky. Birds sang. Dogs barked. Inside Amara's hut, the impossible was real. A mermaid was lying on her floor, carrying a child, whispering thank you, and Amara had no idea what would happen next. Amara closed the wooden door, slowly, heart hammering in her chest. She leaned against it, breathless, her arms and back aching from carrying Nini all that way. The room smelled of earth and ash, the floor bare save for the old woven mat where Nene now lay curled up, her silvery tail tucked awkwardly beneath her dot. In the dim light, Nene looked more human than not. Her arms were thin, her belly round and trembling, her face pale with pain. Outside, the village stirred. Amara tiptoed across the hut and peeked through the crack in the door. Smoke from early morning fires curled through the air. Roosters crowed. A baby cried somewhere down the path. She turned back to Nini. "I need to clean your wounds," she said quietly, almost to herself. Nini blinked slowly. "You're not afraid of me?" Amara hesitated, then shook her head. "I should be, but I'm not." She stepped outside, careful to keep her body between the door and any wandering eyes. The small kitchen area behind the hut was nothing more than a fire pit and a few old pots stacked against a tree. She grabbed a calabash, filled it with water from the gourd beside the fire, and placed it over the flame dot as the water heated. She tore a piece of cloth from an old wrapper and returned inside. Nini hadn't moved. Amara dipped the cloth in warm water, wrung it out, and began to gently wipe the mermaid's bruised wrists. Nini winced, but didn't pull away. "I've never met someone like you," Amara whispered. Nini smiled faintly. "I've never met someone like you either. How did they catch you?" Amara asked, her hands working gently. "I was near the surface," Nini said. "I thought it was safe. The moon was full, and I needed to prepare for the baby." Her hand rested protectively over her belly. "I came to breathe, to feel the river. Then I saw the net. They used salt. Salt weakens us." Amara paused. "Salt?" Nini nodded slowly. "It burns. It strips away our strength. They poured it on the bank. I couldn't slip away in time." Amara's throat tightened. Humans, always wanting what they didn't understand. She finished wiping the blood and grime from Nine's arms, then wrapped her in a clean cloth. The shimmer of her scales dulled slightly under the fabric, but the tail still peeked from beneath the mat. Footsteps shuffled inside. Amara's breath caught. Chijioke. Her son rubbed his sleepy eyes and blinked at her. "Mama, who is that?" Amara stood quickly, blocking his view. "Nene is still asleep." He stepped to the side, trying to peer around her. "Mama, who is she?" Before she could stop him, he looked past her and saw the tail. His eyes went wide. He gasped, stumbling back. "Mama!" Amara rushed forward and grabbed his shoulders. "Kijioke, listen to me. Don't shout." He looked at her, horrified. "She has a fishtail." "Mama, she's hurt," Amara said firmly. "She's not here to hurt us. But the elders say." "I don't care what they say." Her voice cracked. "She's not a monster. She's carrying a child. She needs help. And we are the only ones who can help her now." Kijioke trembled. "But what if people find out?" "They must not. You must not say a word. Not even to Nena. Do you understand me?" He hesitated. Then he looked at Nene again, really looked at her pale face, her trembling hands, her belly, round with the promise of life. She opened her eyes and looked at him, tears forming. "I won't hurt you," she whispered. "I just want to be safe." Chijioke swallowed, chest rising and falling. Then he nodded. "I won't tell anyone," he said softly. Amara pulled him into a hug. "Thank you, my son." A knock shattered the moment. 3 sharp taps at the door. Amara stiffened. Her blood went cold. Another knock. Louder. Chijioke opened his mouth, but Amara pressed a finger to his lips. "Stay silent." She motioned to Nene to stay hidden, then walked to the door, trying to slow her breathing. She cracked it open just enough to peek through. A wide face with sharp cheekbones and suspicious eyes glared back at her. "Mama Jadika." Stomach-twisted. Of all people. "Mama Jadika," she said, trying to sound normal. "You're out early." "I always am," the woman sniffed. "Unlike some who hide secrets in their homes." Amara smiled tightly. "What are you talking about?" Mama Jadika leaned on the doorframe, trying to see inside. "I was just passing and thought I'd borrow your water pot." Amara shifted her body, blocking the view completely. "I used it already." "Used it?" Mama Jadika squinted. "But I saw one just like yours near the river. Someone left it behind." Amara's heart dropped. No one had seen her. No one should have known. "That wasn't mine," she said quickly. "Mine is in the kitchen." "You sure?" Mama Jadika tilted her head. "Because the hunters are looking for someone," said a woman passed near the mango tree with a pot. Same morning the mermaid disappeared. Amara forced a laugh. "Ugh, mermaid, that's village gossip." Mama Jadika didn't laugh. She stepped closer. "So, can I look inside?" "No," Amara said too quickly. Mama Jadika blinked. "No, I'm bathing," Amara added, grabbing the edge of her wrapper. "You want to see me naked, Mama?" The woman scowled and stepped back. "You young women have no respect." Amara shrugged. "Some of us value our privacy." Mama Jadika huffed, adjusted her head wrap, and turned to go, but not before glancing back one more time. "I'll be back," she muttered. Secrets never stay buried for long. Amara closed the door fast and bolted it with her wooden latch. Silence returned. She turned back to the room. Nene lay trembling. Chijioke stood beside her, eyes wide, silent. Amara dropped to her knees, her heart still racing. "They're going to come," she whispered. "The hunters, the village. I don't know how long I can keep you safe." Nene reached for her hand. "I don't want to die." Amara held it tightly. "I won't let that happen." Outside, the sun climbed higher, bathing the hut in pale light. But inside, the secret grew heavier with each breath. The third morning broke with a strange silence in the village. It was the kind of silence that felt too careful, the kind that made goats bleat nervously and chickens flap their wings at shadows. Amara was squatting beside her mortar, pounding cassava into fine pulp, sweat already forming along her hairline despite the early hour. Her back ached, her arms were sore, but her ears stayed sharp. From inside the hut, she could hear the low rustling of Nene breathing. The mermaid hadn't spoken much since yesterday, only whispered thank yous, her voice fading like wind in dry grass. Chijioke sat nearby, plucking leaves from a bitter leaf stalk. His eyes flicked toward the road every few seconds. He knew something was coming, and then they heard it. Boots. 3 sets, heavy, measured. Voices barked, greetings, not friendly ones, as the men made their way down the dusty path, knocking on doors, demanding answers. The hunters had returned. Grip on the pestle faltered. Mama Chijioke whispered. "I see them," she said quietly. They watched through the narrow slit in the thatch wall. The 3 hunters were moving from hut to hut, one tall, lean, with a jagged scar down his left cheek, another round like a drum, his voice loud and impatient. The third, silent eyes, always scanning. They stopped at Mama Jadika's compound. The gossip woman leaned on her wall like she had been waiting for them. Amara couldn't hear the words, but she saw the wide-arm gestures, the pointing fingers. Then the scar-faced one nodded, and they turned, headed her way. Amara stood slowly, wiped her hands on her wrapper, and walked to the front of the hut just as the first knock landed hard and demanding. She opened it with a smile. "Good morning, hunters," she said. The tall one frowned. "We're looking for the woman who went to the river before dawn 2 days ago. She left a pot behind." Amara raised her eyebrows. "A pot?" "Yes, a clay water pot. We found it by the bamboo trees near the mango grove. She laughed, too loudly. Ah, that place. I haven't walked that way in weeks. The grass there scratches my legs. The round one grunted. Did you see anyone go that way? No, Amara said, eyes steady. I was here pounding cassava early that morning. My son can tell you. They looked at Kajoke, who stood quietly beside the fire, not blinking. She was here, he said, voice flat. She didn't leave the house. The hunters exchanged glances. The silent one stepped forward, peering over Amara's shoulder into the hut. Her heart nearly stopped. She shifted her body quickly, blocking his view. Would you like cassava? She asked suddenly. I have extra. Scarface narrowed his eyes. We're not here to eat. The round one spat on the ground. Someone helped her escape. We'll find out who. Then they turned and left. Amara watched them go, her chest rising and falling too fast. She didn't speak until the sound of their boots faded down the path. Chijioke exhaled beside her. I know, she whispered. They stepped inside. Nini lay still on the mat, but her eyes were open now, wide with fear. They'll come back, she said weakly. They won't stop until they find me. Amara crouched beside her. I won't. Let them. I don't want you to suffer because of me. You didn't ask for this, Amara replied. You didn't choose to be hunted, but you chose to help, Nini whispered, tears forming. And they'll punish you for that. Amara's throat burned. She didn't have an answer. That night, after the sun had gone and the moon hung low and full over the trees, she gathered her children close. The hut was lit only by the weak glow of embers. Nena, Amara whispered, brushing her daughter's hair. You will stay here with Kajioke tonight. Don't open the door for anyone. The girl blinked. Where are you going? Mama, just to the river. I'll be back before dawn. Kijioke's eyes narrowed. Mama, she can't stay here. Kijioke, you saw their faces today. They will return, and next time, they won't leave so easily. The boy nodded slowly. He already knew. He had known all along. Amara turned to Nene, who sat propped against the wall, a faded cloth draped over her shoulders. You must be strong, Amara said. We will go back tonight. Nene hesitated. I don't know if I can walk. You won't have to. Amara fetched one of her old wrappers, thick and strong. She wrapped it tightly around Nene's upper body and her tail, binding her close like a mother straps a baby to her back. Then she bent forward and lifted her Nene's arms wrapped weakly around her neck. Her body was cool, but trembling. Amara steadied herself. She opened the door quietly and stepped into the night. The village was silent. The huts around them were dark. Only the sound of crickets and the distant croak of frogs filled the air. Step by step, Amara moved through the narrow path, keeping to the shadows, her feet silent on the dust. Every rustle made her flinch. Every snap of a twig made her knees buckle. But she didn't stop. Behind her, the hut faded into the dark. Ahead, the forest waited. The forest at night was a different world. It breathed deeper. It listened. It watched. The air was thick with the scent of wet earth and old trees. A low mist curled around Amara's feet as she moved, each step silent but heavy. On her back, Nene clung weakly, her head resting just above Amara's shoulder, breath warm against her skin. They didn't speak. Even the insects seemed hushed, as though the forest itself knew something sacred was happening. Amara's wrapper tightened around her waist as she adjusted Nene's weight. Every few steps, she paused, catching her breath, her knees aching. Her bare feet slipped on patches of damp moss, and thorny vines tugged at her legs. But she pressed on, guided by instinct, moonlight, and something deeper, a call she couldn't explain. After what felt like hours, they emerged at the clearing where the river flowed wide and quiet. The moon hovered just above the water, casting silver light over its surface. The reflection shimmered like it was alive. Amara stood still for a long moment, letting the air touch her skin. The sound of running water soothed her aching muscles and brought a lump to her throat. We're here, she whispered. Nene stirred, her eyes fluttered open, and when she saw the water, a soft sigh escaped her lips, a sound caught between pain and peace. You brought me back, she murmured. Amara knelt carefully, lowering her burden to the soft earth. Nene's tail slid from beneath the cloth, brushing against the wet grass. It glistened faintly, though dulled by days without the river. I didn't know if I could make it, Amara admitted, wiping sweat from her brow. You did. Nene's voice was hoarse. You did more than anyone ever has." Amara sat beside her, both of them silent, listening to the water lap gently at the riverbank. A frog croaked somewhere nearby. A breeze stirred the trees. "I don't understand," Amara finally said. "Why you? Why now?" Nini looked at her, eyes glistening. "In the moonlight, sometimes the river chooses. Sometimes it calls people to do things they never expected." She touched Amara's hand. "You answered the call." Amara looked down, unsure of what to say. "You were brave," Neni continued, "and kind, when it would have been easier to walk away. That is rare." Amara tried to smile, but her lips trembled. "I was afraid, and yet you stayed." Nini turned her gaze toward the water. "Help me." Amara nodded and rose slowly. She slid her arms under Nini's shoulders and helped her inch closer to the river's edge. The moment her tail touched the water, a pulse of light shimmered across the surface, soft at first, then brighter. Neni gasped. Her skin began to glow faintly. The scales on her tail caught the moonlight and reflected it in waves of silver and blue. She let out a long breath as strength seemed to return to her limbs. Her fingers dug into the mud, pulling herself deeper into the water. The pain in her face eased. Amara stepped back, watching in awe. The river wrapped around Nini like a mother embracing a lost child. The light intensified, not harsh, but ethereal. It danced across the trees, casting patterns that looked almost like symbols on the trunks. Fireflies emerged from the grass, blinking wildly, as if pulled by the energy in the air. Neni turned in the shallows, now half submerged, her face calm and clear. She looked at Amara one last time. "Your kindness will not be forgotten," she said. Amara stepped closer to the edge, heart aching. "I don't want them to hurt you again." "They won't," Neni said, her voice stronger now. "Not after tonight. I will go far. My child will be born in the deep. We will remember you." She placed her hand over her belly. "And one day, maybe, our paths will cross again." Amara felt a tear slide down her cheek. She nodded. "I'll pray for you." "And I for you," Neni said. Then, with one final smile, Neni sank gracefully beneath the surface. The light pulsed once more, bright, then fading gently into the ripples. The fireflies scattered, the forest exhaled, and the river was quiet again. Amara stood at the edge for a long time, staring at the place where the mermaid had disappeared. She didn't speak, didn't cry, only stood. Then, slowly, she turned and began walking back through the forest. The path home felt longer, somehow. Heavier. Every step whispered of something just lost, just gained. She felt no fear now, only a strange, peaceful sadness, like something sacred had brushed against her life and moved on. When she reached her hut, the sky had begun to pale with the promise of dawn. Birds stirred in the trees. A distant drumbeat echoed faintly from across the hill, a sign the market day would soon begin. Inside, the hut was still. Chijioke and Nena were asleep, curled under a faded cloth. Amara entered quietly, sat down by the fire, and stared into the dying embers. She said nothing, but in her heart, she felt it. Something had shifted. Not just in her life, in her soul. The seventh night came with no warning, no omen in the stars, no strange wind, no voices whispering in the forest, just the ordinary rhythm of a quiet village, evening pots clinking, children laughing in distant courtyards, a lullaby carried faintly through the trees. Amara sat outside her hut beneath the open sky. A simple wrap hugged her shoulders, and her bare feet rested on the cool earth. Chijioke and Nena were asleep inside, their bellies full after a warm meal of yam and vegetable soup, a rare treat she'd scraped together. The river felt like a memory. It had been 7 days since she'd carried Nini into the moonlit water and watched her vanish. 7 days of silence. No visions, no dreams, no ripples of magic in her simple life. And Amara hadn't expected anything. She hadn't done it for gold or glory. She had done it because it was right, because no living being deserved to die tied to a tree. Still, the silence made her ache sometimes, as if part of her had been left behind. Tangled in the reeds at the edge of that river, she rose to go inside, then stopped. Something gleamed. Near the door, 3 small trunks sat neatly on the ground, their golden frames catching the moonlight. They hadn't been there moments ago. No sound had signaled their arrival. Amara's heart thudded in her chest. She looked left, then right. The path outside her home was empty. Not even a lizard stirred. She stepped forward cautiously, bent down, and touched one of the trunks. Solid, cold, real. Her fingers trembled as she opened the first one. Inside, a bed of coral beads, so rich in color, they looked like drops of sunset. Deep reds, radiant oranges, speckled with shimmering gold. The second trunk held gold coins, ancient ones, heavy and irregular, stamped with symbols she didn't recognize. The third, silver rings, necklaces, small crystal stones, and a folded cloth of such fine weave it shimmered like morning dew. Amara backed away slowly, stunned. She didn't know what to feel. Joy, fear, gratitude. Was this from Nene? Her knees gave way and she sank to the ground, staring at the trunks. She whispered softly, to the moon, to the river, to the trees, "Thank you." That night, she didn't sleep. She placed the trunks carefully inside, covered them, and sat by her children as they slept. She watched their faces, memorizing every curve. A new fire burned quietly in her chest. This could change everything, but only if she was wise. In the weeks that followed, the changes came slowly, deliberately. Amara didn't build a mansion. She didn't flaunt riches or call attention to herself. She started with a new roof. Then she bought new clothes for Kijiok and Nena, not too fancy, just clean and well made. She sent them to school with extra snacks. She bought more cassava and stocked dry fish. Soon, her compound was cleaner, brighter. The garden grew fuller. Her children laughed more, and people noticed. They always did. Mama Jadika was the first to whisper, "That woman, something is different," she told the weaver one morning. "Did you see her wrapper new?" The weaver nodded. "And her children look healthy now, too healthy for a widow." By the end of the week, the whispers had turned into conversations. Did she remarry? Is she hiding money from the market? Maybe she's doing charms. Maybe she found something in the forest. Mama Jadika took it upon herself to investigate. She arrived at Amara's hut one humid afternoon with a woven basket and a basket full of questions. "Amara, my sister," she called out with a wide grin. "How is business?" Amara wiped her hands on her wrapper and smiled. Small, but steady. "Mama." Jadika sniffed the air. "I smell spices. You're cooking well these days. God is providing." Jadika narrowed her eyes. "That's good. Very good." She stepped closer to the door and peeked inside. Her gaze swept the corners, the walls, the shelves. Nothing unusual. And yet, she clicked her tongue. "People are talking. Let them talk," Amara said calmly, folding laundry in the sun. "If I do wrong, they can come to me." Mama Jadika pursed her lips. "Some say you've changed." Amara looked at her fully. "Yes, I have." That silenced the older woman. She left soon after, clearly dissatisfied, and the village, like most villages, soon turned its attention to the next rumor. A goat stolen, a girl betrothed to an old man, a snake found in a pot of soup. Amara continued to grow her life quietly. She sold a single gold coin and used the money to start a cassava business in the next village, under a trusted friend's name. She bought better books for Chit, gave him space to read under the mango tree, paid for his school fees a year in advance. She planted more yams, more maize. She began to sleep through the night. One evening, as the sun dripped red across the horizon, Kijiok sat beside her. "Mama," he said, "I've been thinking." She turned toward him, brushing a curl from his forehead. "About what?" "About her, Nene." Amara didn't speak. "I still remember her eyes," he said. "How she looked at you, like she trusted you." "She did," Amara whispered. "Why, us?" Amara looked toward the river in the distance, just beyond the trees. "Maybe because we listened when no one else would." Kijiok nodded slowly. "Sometimes, I think people are too afraid to do what's right." "They are," Amara agreed. "But fear is loud, and kindness is quiet. You have to choose which one you listen to." He smiled. "I want to be like you." Amara felt her chest swell. She kissed his forehead. "Then be better than me." Every night, after the fire died down and her children had gone to sleep, Amara would sit quietly in front of her hut. She didn't light candles or chant prayers. She simply looked toward the river. Sometimes she thought she saw a shimmer in the water, a flash of silver under the moon, a figure watching from the shadows of the reeds. But maybe that was just memory. She never told anyone about Nini, not even Nena, who grew up hearing only this: kindness is a seed. One day, it grows into something bigger than you can imagine. Years passed. Kijiok grew strong and thoughtful. he never told a soul. And that, Amara thought, was the truest proof that he had learned. The village never did learn the truth, but they never stopped wondering. And Amara, she smiled more, worried less, ate well, slept deeply, not because she was rich, but because she had peace, because she had chosen courage over fear, because in the quietest moment of her life, she had done the hardest thing, and the right thing. If you watched until the end, comment the word River Gift, subscribe to the channel, and share this story with your friends and family.